Hey guys, James from Sickie Manufacturing. Today we're going to do a step-by-step install guide on the Sickie oil pan on any LS based engine. For this particular example we'll be using an LS2 in one of our front sump oil pans. Alright, so we're going to start off by getting this factory GTO oil pan out of the way. Alright, now we got them all loose, we're going to actually just lift up on the oil pan. And that's as simple as that. On this particular oil pan install, we're going to be changing out this factory GTO oil pickup tube for one that comes with the Sickie pan that we're using. Just going to make sure you match up the correct pickup to the right pan. And the good thing about that is the Sickie pans, when it requires a special pickup tube, it'll come with that pickup tube in the kit. But we're going to get this one out of the way by taking off this nut and this bolt right here. When you remove this pickup, just be sure that that O-ring came out with it and it's not left behind in the oil pump. Alright, so here we have the new Sickie pickup tube. We're going to put this on the same way we took the other one off. Make sure that O-ring seats in there good and reinstall the factory hardware. As you can see, there's a bunch of leftover sealant and dirt from the previous oil pan, so we want to get that gasket surface all cleaned up. Alright, before we put the new oil pan gasket on, we're going to want to take some RTV silicone sealant and apply it to these 4 locations on the rear cover and the front oil pump. We've got a seam here between the block, so we just got to make sure we get a little bit on there. Now we're going to take a brand new oil pan gasket and set this down. As with all Sickie pans, they come with this windage tray and baffle assembly. At this opening here, we're going to be careful when we're installing it that we don't bang this pickup tube on the side of this one. Put it on nice and gentle. And another item to note, this particular pan has this adapter block on it, so we configure them based on what you're going to use, but this is an option where you can change out to a side port design or this bottom port design, so it gives you a lot of flexibility for different installations. All the Sickie pans are going to come with a hardware kit that looks something like this. These 2 large bolts go through this back flange into the bell housing. These are the front 2 oil pan bolts. Because of the tight clearance and the way they need to be installed, they have to be this socket head cap screw. And then these are actually the dust cover nuts, so you can actually, the Sickie pan is one of the only pans out there aftermarket that allows you to reuse your factory dust covers. So these get attached on the side, we'll show in a later step. And then this is the actual dipstick tube plug for the factory dipstick. On the LS2 or GTO, the factory dipstick goes into the pan, so we're not going to use that in this install, but if you have an LS1 Camaro Firebird, the dipstick from the factory goes through the side of the block. Since we're using the Sickie dipstick tube with this install, you would normally need to plug that up with this 1/8" NPT plug that we provide. But again, we're not going to be doing that on this LS2 because it doesn't have that style dipstick. Alright, so the first oil pan bolts you're going to want to install are going to be these front. These are the hardest to get in just because of the way the clearance is, so keep in mind you got to get them past the rubber gasket material, so it might be a little hard at first, but just thread them in finger tight. And sometimes you might have to wiggle it a little bit to get the alignment right with the gasket in the pan and the block itself. This one in particular over here is the tightest one. It's very close to the oil pan, so it takes the most care to get it in there aligned properly, and make sure you're threading it in to the hole and not cross-threading it. This particular bolt's very close to sheet metal, so you can see we want to get these in here snugged up but not tight at all. And then we're going to move on to the back 2 that are on the back flange. All right, so the rest of the pan bolts are actually all gonna be factory, so we're gonna use these long ones. Get these in here next. Again, you gotta give it a little wiggle sometimes to get it past the rubber gasket. Drop down into the hole. All right, again with these, we're gonna snug these up and not torque them down yet, because we wanna have the pan still have a little bit of movement, just to make it easier to get all the other bolts in. So we're gonna pretty much start every bolt before we start the tightening sequence. Again, we're reusing the factory bolts that came off the OEM GTO pan. All right, so the back two bolts here, you're gonna wanna torque to 108 inch-pounds, and the rest of the oil pan flange bolts are gonna be 18 foot-pounds. So you wanna start in the middle pattern, basically about mid-pan, snug that one up, and do a crisscross pattern back and forth all the way back. And again, once you get them all snugged up like that, you're gonna come back with a torque wrench and do these at 18 foot-pounds and 108 inch-pounds for these guys. That's pretty much a wrap for this oil pan install. Log on to Sickie.com and get in touch with one of our knowledgeable sales reps to get yours today.